was on our list. That is the theme of temptation, right? So this will be, yes, Ongira.
No, no, sir, by mistake.
Okay, so this is going to be a fairly straightforward answer. Like, we need to identify um, where the theme of temptation has been used, and how far is temptation a theme in Samson Agonistes. So, um, temptation as a theme is very common, or is a commonly used theme, commonly seen theme in many Christian texts. So, Milton, being a staunch, devout Christian to the extent of being a Puritan, of course, talks about Christian themes consciously or unconsciously. Um, the theme of temptation is as old as the Bible is, because in the Bible, um, Christ is shown to face this kind of temptation from various angles. Um, Satan perhaps came and tempted Jesus, so that Satan wanted Jesus to join him against God. And there were, like, I think, four temptations that Jesus was exposed to, but he fought off against all the temptations, and he emerged as a um, martyr, or he emerged as a prophet, because he fought off all his temptations. Now, Eve was also tempted by um, Satan, by Lucifer, and because of that temptation, both Adam and Eve had to lose their Eden, had to lose paradise. So, temptation is a common recurring theme in many texts, covertly or overtly. Samson Agonistes is a text which was written, like Paradise Lost, to justify the ways of God to man. Just are the ways of God and justifiable, whatever the chorus was saying. So, in that case, of course, we are going to deal with the theme of temptation as it has been shown, as it has been depicted in Samson Agonistes. So, where, how does this theme come into play? Of course, through Samson, because there are the other characters, maybe the minor characters also, or the major characters, whoever are characters, project some kind of temptation upon Samson, and it is Samson who either falls for it or fights it. When he falls for it, he falls, and then when he fights it, wins over those temptations, he becomes a uh, martyr, he becomes a uh, hero. Okay, so uh, it also gives us a life lesson about not giving in to temptations, and what to do in the face of temptations. So, the first, I mean, initially, when we find Samson, when he's talking about his state of being, we find that Samson is imprisoned and Samson is blind. Initially, we find that Samson is tempted, just like any of us, to blame someone else for our downfall. Like, if we cannot study, it is because of Netflix or Amazon Prime, or because um, your sibling is singing, or your neighbor is making a racket. Um, so we often blame others when we are responsible for whatever wrong has happened to us. So the first manifestation of the theme of temptation that we find in the text is that Samson is blaming God. And we can quote the lines. We have been going over these lines for a long time since we started classes on Samson. Um, so he initially thinks that God is responsible for his downfall, or if God really loved him, then why did not he help? Why did not he? Why would he allow uh, Samson to rot in prison? And this theme of temptation of blaming others for your faults is reinforced by Manoah, because he also thinks that Manoah thinks that, wherefore is Samson taken to um, एक hold for. Okay, sorry for the interruption. So so Manoah also says that if he is the chosen champion of God, then why is he rotting in prison, and so on and so forth. But soon we find that Samson realizes that it is his own mistake. He should not blame God for whatever has gone wrong. It is his own mistake. It is through his own miscalculation. It is through his own pride or hubris that he is in prison. The next temptation, the next theme of temptation, the next manifestation of the theme of temptation can be found in the fact that he understands the fact that we should not take pride in something that has been externally provided to us by some miracle or by some blessing of God or whatever, because whatever is with us right now, which we have not earned it ourselves, I mean, even if we earn something ourselves, it could go rotten. So, if something is given to us by someone else, that can be taken away by that someone else as easily as it was given. So, Samson realizes this, and he fights this temptation to depend upon his physical strength, and by a kind of a relay, by a kind of a uh, what is that word? Starts with C, where we live through someone else's uh, experiences. Can't remember that word right now. So through Samson, we might also understand and fight off the temptation to imagine that we are strong because our strength has been provided from somewhere else. Our strength, usually in our world, in our society, we usually take pride in the fact that we are rich. I mean, whoever is rich among us, we take pride in the fact that our father or our mother is so and so in so and so place, and nobody should mess with us. But all of these things are external. It is not yours to boast. And hence Samson says that God wants to prove the futility of physical strength by putting it in a person's hair. As fragile, as weak as the part of the body is, the hair is actually, fragile in a sense. um, the entire strength to beat an army or to carry off the pillars of a city onto a hill lies in the hair. It is fixed into the hair. So there is another aspect of temptation that has been dealt with. Next is uh, the difference that we see between the temptation of sexual indulgence. Samson gets attracted, or Samson falls for Delilah, marries her, and that is one form of temptation. Like if a person is a person can be easily tempted through carnal pleasures, and not just sexual pleasure, but all sorts of carnal pleasures, then that person might not carry out his or her duties to the perfection. Similar thing happened to Samson, that Samson was tempted by Delilah, tempted by her external beauty, and thus he trusted her, thus he brought her into his confidence. But there is a subtle theme of temptation lying within this broader theme of sexual temptation. The the thing that I'm trying to point out is uh, the the temptation of boasting, or the temptation of having an audience. Like, many among us, consciously or unconsciously, want the limelight. Like, they want to be in the center of attention and attraction. So an audience is always welcome for people like these. And in order to boast, in order to prove how great, or how um, significant, or how um, important we are, we often give in to the temptation of talking about ourselves, that we have done this and we have done that. Um, a similar thing happened with Samson. I mean, Samson uh, wanted to be very intimate, not just physically, but in terms of friendship, in terms of spiritual intimacy also. We tell secrets to our friends to win their trust, often. Like, um, if a friend does not tell a particular um, secret to a particular friend, then the friend complains that, why haven't you tell me, why didn't you tell me this? Because it is usually considered that one should be candid with one's friend, and especially uh, it is usually considered this way, that you should tell everything to your spouse, or there should be no secrets between you and your um, lover, or girlfriend, boyfriend, spouse, whatever. And hence many people provide the Facebook password, or whatever, to their beloveds, and then they chat in WhatsApp. So, well, Samson thought that maybe he would earn trust from Delilah. He would earn Delilah's trust and friendship by sharing his secret with Delilah. Um, so he was tempted by the marital bliss that he thought would be there between um, him and Delilah. He was complacent. The temptation of complacency is a problem with champions. Like, when you think that you have done it all, when you think that you have become the master of the game, when you think that you have read all the books and made all the notes and you know everything about a particular thing, nothing can surprise you anymore. It is at that moment that something out of the box happens, something out beyond expectation takes place, and you find yourself made a fool. Though earlier you thought that nobody can better you at the game, but someone comes and beats you because you have become complacent. It's not because you're not a good player, or you're not good at whatever you are beaten at, but you have become complacent. You have not updated yourself. You have not challenged yourself lately because you think that you have completed all the challenges and you are at the end of the game. Samson was also complacent because he thought that through his physical strength, with the blessing of the God, there is nothing that can go wrong with him. Everything will be taken care of by his physical strength. Or another level of complacency was that since he was chosen champion of God, God would never let anything wrong happen to him. So there is this temptation of complacency, and we can always be bothered. We can always ask this question ourselves, that at what point should we stop worrying about something that we are rather good at? At what point should we stop challenging ourselves? At what point should we think that there is nothing in a particular area, in a particular place, that we cannot do? It depends upon. Uh, just a minute. Okay, sorry for the interruption. Uh, okay, so at what point do we think that this thing is done? Okay, okay. So Samson was young. Uh, what happened there? Okay, Samson was young, and Samson did not know as to when he should stop, uh, as to when he should not stop, or as to when he should be more careful. Like, if you are young, you do not really think twice before doing a particular thing. The same was true with Samson. So, but again, another subtler layer of temptation for Samson was the love of Delilah. Um, Samson thought that Delilah really loves him, and she will not do anything to um, make him angry, or you know betray him in any way whatsoever. Um, just a minute. Okay, so some cleaning is going on at my place, so, and there's this person that I need to talk to sometimes. Anyway, so the sexuality offers one level of temptation, but beyond sexuality, unlike what many of us believe that men are usually interested only in sexual relationships. Men like Samson know that sexual pleasure can be had, but they are often of the view that true love should um, should also be a something to achieve. And maybe Samson thought that Delilah really loves him for whatever he is, but just excuse me. Orchok, stop presenting your screen. Okay, so sorry for these frequent interruptions. Maybe that there was greater temptation greater than sexual pleasure for Samson. The temptation was of Delilah's love, because in the text we do not see Samson's mother in the text. We do not talk about Samson's mother. So maybe via Oedipus complex, I am sure that you have heard of this term Oedipus complex a lot throughout your graduation and post graduation. Let me know in the chat box if you haven't. Via Oedipus complex, perhaps Samson is tempted to have both a wife and a mother in the same body. So these are greater temptations. I'm trying to talk about something that Milton perhaps hinted, but maybe did not really make it clear, that there was greater temptation facing Samson than just Delilah's sexual appeal. There was love, there was even motherly love, again via Oedipus complex. So, but later, initially he fell for it and he was punished, he was captivated, he was imprisoned because this happened. But later, when Delilah comes up again and talks to Samson and offers Samson release and offers Samson a conjugal life, even if Samson is now blind, Samson fights it, and Samson does not give into all those temptations that Samson might have had given into. He did not go for sexual intimacy. He did not go for love. He did not ultimately go for a motherly support that all men usually search in their lovers or spouses. That's one thing. The next issue about temptation is Manoah's fatherly love towards Samson. Manoah is ready to pay any price as a ransom to get Samson out of this prison. So he is ready to sacrifice everything for his son, and he asks his son to come to him and work and do nothing and just stay with him, because he's his only son and he wants to make life better for Samson. But Samson rejects this temptation also, the temptation of indolence, you can say. I mean, we can always talk about this in this way, that what if somebody comes, maybe somebody close to you whom you can trust, or maybe not trust, comes to you and say that you don't need to do anything for the rest of your life. You just need to watch TV and play games and go shopping, or you can do online shopping if you're blind, or you can go shopping, whatever. um, you will have all the comforts in the life. You don't need to do anything at all. um, you just be, you just stay in the particular place. You can go on vacations also, paid trips and stuff like that. We will think, okay, there is something wrong here, there is something, there must be a catch, that why would somebody do these things for us. There must be a catch. But what if this offer is made by your parents? What if this offer is made by somebody you really trust, whom you think that they will not trick you into something? But we won't even believe our own parents at this, that if our mother comes up and says, okay, you don't need to do anything, you don't need to clean your own room or make your bed or make food or even study, all you need to do is like just stay there like a couch potato, or something like that, and you don't need to do anything. We will maybe accept that offer, because why are we working so hard? What are we arriving at? If we have money, if we have anything that we want. But Samson rejects this temptation also. Samson says that no, he's not going to do that, because he agrees, he uh, realizes that all that has happened till date is because of his own mistake, and therefore he should endure the punishment. And this is the penance for his indulgence in various uh, prideful activities, various sinful activities that he had engaged himself in. He thinks that marrying Delilah was a crime, or a sin, not a crime but a sin, and to tell Delilah that his strength lies in the hair is another sin. And therefore, for his sins, he needs to atone for his sins, and this imprisonment, this physical labor, this abuse that he is subject to daily is his penance, and he need to do it, because if he does not do it, then his penance will remain incomplete and his sin will not wash away. So there is that temptation. Then comes the temptation of Hadafa. Samson grew up as a champion. Samson grew up on the assumption of his superior physical strength. He proved it when he tore apart the lion, or when he killed the entire army with a donkey's jawbone. And then comes the offer from Harafa for a physical fight to determine whose god is real god. There are two temptations here. One, to prove his physical might. Samson has the opportunity to defeat Harafa, who is a giant, who has a great pedigree of warriorship. Samson rejects in favor of Renaissance humanism, which Milton is actually voicing, not Samson, because Samson is like ancient. Renaissance did not happen at that point in time. Samson rejects physical trial, but he rejects something greater. He rejects a greater temptation. What is that? He rejects the temptation of determining the superiority of his God through so trivial a thing as a fist fight. If he had indulged into a wrestling match, then God's stature, like Christian God or Israelite God, whatever God there was, his or its stature would have been reduced, because if the superiority of a god needs to be established by uh, wrestling with someone, needs to be established by fighting with someone, needs to be established by speaking the loudest or crying the loudest on the loudspeaker. If the superiority of the god depends upon establishing a temple or a mosque, then we should understand, and Samson understood that that will actually demean God, that will actually make fun of the stature of God, and he denies, uh, he gets away from this kind of temptation. Okay. There is also a temptation of revenge, which is a lesser understood theme here. Revenge against the Philistines. That some critics say about Samson Agonistes that the play is about, it's a revenge tragedy, because Samson wants to take revenge against the Philistines, against the Palestinians. But if we see, whatever happens in the text is that when he was brought into the temple, when he was brought amongst the Palestinian chiefs, it was at the spur of the moment that Samson brought down the entire edifice on their heads. He did not plan it. If it was revenge, it was instant revenge. It was not planned, and usually we plan a revenge. We don't really just see somebody walking on the street and break that person's head, because we know about the repercussions, that police could catch us or something. But Samson did not plan that this is what he is going to do. He just saw the opportunity and he did what he was always built to do. It was sudden. Well, we can say that he died in the process, and like revenge tragedy, like Seneca's revenge tragedy, everybody dies at the end. Protagonist, antagonist, all are dead. But revenge is a smaller, revenge is a meaner emotion here. Here Samson's emotion of redemption, or Samson's want of redemption, is greater than the minuscule or diminutive idea of revenge, because revenge is something that smaller people, meaner people, lesser people think about, and the greater concept is, of course, justice. And Samson brings eternal justice. Samson brings God's justice upon the heads of the Palestinians. So Samson defeats the idea, or Samson fights the temptation of taking revenge. But again, as we have been saying, as we have been discussing from the very beginning, that was it justice? Because there were chiefs among the Palestinians who were not mean to, or who did not really say that they want to be mean to Samson, and they were for Samson's release and stuff like that. There are always people like that. So he killed them also. Like, those chiefs were also there in the temple, and Samson's act destroyed them as well. So there is a lacuna, there is a gap in justice. This is what happens when you take revenge. You destroy the whole thing. rather than surgically striking at people who are responsible for some wrong. So, well, this this and that is why this is a tragedy, because in a tragedy you do not really get a closure, you do not really get satisfied. Though we have been discussing this issue of catharsis, but a true tragedy will have some gap, will have something like a a piece of fish bone stuck in your gums, which will trouble you, yet you cannot bring it out. It will trouble you for a very long time. And Samson Agonistes is one of those texts that keep something tinkling at the bottom. It's like one of those Hollywood movies where at the end there is the creature or the ghost or something that the protagonists were dealing with is found to have shifted its shape or has will resurrect itself. There is a possibility of the resurrection of the evil always, but in Samson there is a possibility of us questioning the justifiable ways of God to men. God's ways are justified. Is this justified? Well, next temptation that we can talk about, the next issue of temptation in Samson is that is he doing this for the sake of his fame? Why is he doing it? Why is he why does he still want to stay in the prison? Why did he kill himself along with all the Palestinians? Did he do it to die as a hero? Maybe he did. And this it takes us into the minds of the heroes. Like it takes us into the reasons as to why a hero is a hero. Why do heroes risk their lives to save someone else's? I mean, we have real life heroes in our world also, who sometimes risk their own life, their own well-being for others. We have often questioned, we have often ruminated as this thing happened. Why this thing happened? Why do we need to be altruists? Why do we need to help others? What is there? What is the satisfaction? Some people do it for fame, like I will be famous. I mean, other than TikToking or other than making YouTube or Facebook or Instagram reels, there is another easy way to become famous, and that is to maybe do some heroic act of I don't know, saving someone. Some heroes might do it for love, some might do it for money, some might do it for, and has Samson done it because he believes that it is the true purpose of his own life to bring justice, to defeat the Palestinians? If that is true, then, well, he gives into one temptation at least, that is the temptation to stay immortal in the mind and heart of Israelites. Because Manoah puts a finger on it. Manoah says that generations after generations will remember Samson for his bravery. Did Samson do it to become immortal, which is kind of a final temptation for all of us? We all want to be famous, we all want to be known in our fields, at least, that this person is this. Um, so if Samson did it for becoming immortal, for staying immortal, I mean, at least with his name, then he gives into one of the temptations, at least, that fame. We Many of us do many things to earn fame, and Samson perhaps had done this to earn fame. So there are two antithetical points that will add a little masala to our answer, by saying that Samson gave into the final temptation of becoming famous, but we are not sure, because Samson does not say this, because at the end we do not hear from Samson anymore. As But we can argue against this point that he even did not give in to this kind of temptation, because he never planned for this. He was ready to suffer all the indignities of the imprisonment. He did not see an end to it, but when he saw an opportunity, he just went for it. So we cannot say that Samson ultimately gave in to the temptation of uh, thinking or believing that if he kills all these Palestinians, then he will become immortal, or his name will become immortal. Okay, so that's it with this topic. If you have any questions from this particular topic, you can tell me, or then we can go into our extracts. Like, there are 5 or 6 extracts to be discussed. We will go into one of them. If you have any doubts, you can always no, I do not have any prepared note for the theme of temptation. If I can find any, I will upload it in the Google Classroom, where I have uploaded a prepared note on catharsis. I hope you find it, and I hope you find it useful. I also hope that you can decipher the handwriting. Like, it's an it the note belongs to the time I was doing my masters, and it is like 2007 or 6, or maybe earlier, and you might find it a little hazy, but try to make the best of it, whatever you can. Okay, so let us now go into one of the extracts. Let's go for I want to go for the bigger ones first. Like, I think Absalom Achitophel, or Essay on Criticism, or Epistle to Dr. Arbuthnot, these are the lengthier ones, like maybe 300 words or something. But Locke and Hume's are lesser, maybe more boring, but sorry, but we can go for Absalom and Achitophel. Well, only from the extracts, the parts that you are going to read, only you need to answer only from that part. And the good thing is that, though earlier I was informed that these marks from extracts could be of 10 marks, but now I have learned, and you should learn also, that they will be only of 5 marks. So you don't need to worry too much about those, and you need to focus on the lines that we are dealing with, nothing outside it. You don't need to read the entire essay on understanding of human nature, or whatever it is, where from the extracts has been taken to understand or to answer on whatever is going on. So I want to take up Absalom and Achitophel, Give me a minute. I don't know if I will have it here. Okay, wait.